Here we are talking about the final month of the Grit series, which
Mm-hmm.
we're finishing it out with having workouts, experiences that are intended to raise our awareness about our relationship to the sensation of being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That is a component of, um, that's a component of maybe when someone's gritty, they deal with overwhelm in a
Right.
manner that frankly prevents them from getting wrapped up and swept away by the external.
Yeah.
And we're suggesting that the characteristic or the attribute that helps somebody kind of steady their ship in the storm of overwhelm is presence.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when in life, when you think about a situation of being overwhelmed, um, that is the advice or the thought, like, okay, if you think about having a laundry list of things to do, the remedy to that is to come back to like, okay, but what do I need to do right now in this moment, one step at a time. And so that is that presence piece. And presence, I do think that's a term or a concept that people throw around often in life, especially maybe now with social media and there's so much activity and distraction that we have in our lives. And people say, like, just be present, okay. But that's actually a pretty big thing to do. Like, okay, but how? But how do I be present? It's not just, I think, a concept that you can think about. And one of the things I love about the Grit series and what we're doing is giving people the experience of it, involving not only your brain to say, like, okay, I understand this, but having that feeling come up. And then through something like a workout, which really isn't a make or break in our life, get to practice that act of like, okay, let me just focus on this one rep, my breath, what my body's doing. I think
Mhm.
it's like really one of the more powerful tools we have to practice that.
Yeah, I mean, presence does not exist simply on the conceptual plane. And
Hmm.
I think that's a big part of why and the whole purpose of the Grit series, whereas it's different from strength and endurance, it is a very intangible thing,
Yeah.
but it is felt, it's seen, it's even observed, or it's maybe like I don't want to say judged in like a negative way, but it's just like, man, my opinion is that person is like gritty. Presence doesn't exist just in the form of a cognition or a thought.
Hmm.
And so for us, where we're using this month, these workouts are like big workouts. They're there's an element of them which is single modality,
Hmm.
so there's no distraction on that one.
Well, for some of
There's
them. Yeah.
yeah, for some of them. That's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
For some of them, not all of
Yeah.
them, but there's like you'll see a theme here of like, okay, I've got this big chunk of work I have to do in this one thing.
Right.
The whole like how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, like similar kind of thing. We got these big elephant workouts, and the amount of effort to do one rep, we'll just say,
Sure.
in a few of these Turkish get-ups, air bike calories, it's not insignificant. Like the amount
Hmm.
of effort to do one rep of a kettlebell swing, totally different
Right.
than doing one
Right.
rep of a Turkish get-up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
From a timing, from all of that. And so we're creating the experience of I have to try
Hmm.
to make marginal progress, really, really minute progress.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I have to make a lot of minute progress over a 999 calories or 100 Turkish get-ups or whatever it might
Hmm.
be. That can be really overwhelming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, hopefully it is. And that's not a character assertion. It's just an acknowledgement of like, yeah, like what I'm experiencing this thing of overwhelm.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think in the workout, what's cool is like time, I heard you say this yesterday. We were in, to one of our kids, like regarding something strenuous, and you were saying, time, you can't stop time. And that's such an interesting thing. Like for some of these workouts, like you will get there. You're not going to be standing still, but sometimes that's how we feel. Like, gosh, I'm in this loop. I'm just like never going to get out of this loop. So yeah, some of the workouts where there's like 100 reps, or this month, Chad is one of the workouts, because we have November and it's also Veterans Day, and the street parking community has rallied around that fundraiser. Um, and I can say, Chad, for me, my experience has been a very overwhelming workout. One step up, to your point, you know, it's not maybe the same as like a Turkish get up in terms of like, okay, it's not taking as long, but 1,000 step ups, anyone who's done that workout, you get 50 in, and the thought of like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get done. Like
Yeah.
that is a very real experience. And one that like, if you don't have that experience in any of these workouts, I would argue like you didn't win. You didn't, oh, good. The point is to have that experience and then just observe like, oh, yeah, what came up. I don't think also it's only limited to these workouts. I'm sure there's people might
Yeah.
experience being overwhelmed in a random workout on a random Thursday, and they pull it up and they're like, oh my gosh. So I think that's what's kind of,
Sometimes, sorry.
yeah, I think it's just kind of cool that you're, yeah, just like sort of honing in on a tool so that when that comes up next February, next January, tomorrow, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I've been here. I'm familiar with this feeling. And like here's what I just need to focus on, like putting my shoes on, starting the clock, whatever, starting a rep, whatever that is, to just kind of be in the moment versus letting yourself get to that overwhelm, which might result in you not even doing the workout, which is, we've all
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just gonna say, sometimes I get overwhelmed just even thinking what I should do.
Right.
And, I hear a lot of people saying, I just want to be told what to do. And these are not only people that are um, training for something or relying on a
Hmm.
coach or following a program. It's just like a general thing, right? And we get that. And there's value to having someone just tell you, hey, Cariana, just 21, 15, 9, kettlebell swing
Sure.
burpee. Every 4 minutes, you're going to, go out for a 200-meter run or something. It's like, oh, okay, good, fine, thank you. But there is an element of like, you're then sort of removing yourself from your experience.
Yeah.
And that's a fix. That's a coping mechanism. Having somebody tell you what to do is a way that you get to avoid taking responsibility for what you're choosing to do, and is a way of coping with the burden sometimes of, man, I have to whittle down the realm of possibility
Hmm.
into into this one thing. It's like, yeah, that could
Yeah.
be overwhelming, like this whole thing. And so while it might not even occur that, man, I'm really overwhelmed, I'm really like tired. What's that? It's an overwhelming kind of thing. And that can present itself certainly outside of a workout.
Mm.
And we see that more behaviorally, which is where it's a tricky thing because we're truly looking at like how do we install behaviors, and when do you call upon those behaviors? You don't call upon those behaviors without exposing yourself to the sort of training stimulus, right? We have to
Right.
train these traits. These aren't, um, maybe some people believe that you're born with it or not. I think that's a kind of deterministic, hands up in the air kind of mindset. But
Mm.
we were talking about this topic actually years ago, specific to endurance. And some of the
Right.
longer
Right.
distance stuff we've done, you've obviously done an Ironman, you've done geez, some of the longer distance things. Well, we've both done a 50K. You've done an Ironman. You've done
Yeah,
a
a 5K
5 mile or
or yeah, 5 mile
swim.
swim. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And and the model kind of thing we came up with, or the thing that comes up in endurance, and to your point of like some of the workouts this month are single modality, which I would challenge people, you hear little chirping in the community, as we all, in any
Yeah.
community, there's chirping and, oh, this is boring, or this is pointless, or what's the point of this? Well, the point of the single modality stuff, that yes, very well might be, I think people label it as boring, but what it really is maybe like redundant, or like there's not the distraction. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that's enticing about the kind of workouts, the high intensity workouts, CrossFit style workouts, is you are kind of always distracted. So if you are getting overwhelmed with the kettlebell swing, great, just wait a couple seconds and you'll be on to something else. And then, and that's I'm not saying that's bad, but yeah, if you're wanting to train your mind, which people love to talk about fitness being good for your mind, we do need to learn to train that notion of like, oh, like I'm bored. And I think when we look at endurance, that the overwhelm and the boredom are kind of I think a combo. But what happens is, and in our experience, this is like what we discovered, or what I think a lot of people discover, is you start to project. And that was kind of part of the model. It's like, and you can kind of walk through it, but there there is often in endurance when people quit something long, and if you've ever done something long for endurance, you probably didn't quit because that one step of the run, or that pedal stroke, or that reach of your arm swimming was like a 1 rep max back squat. And you're like, I don't know if I can pedal. I don't know if I can step. Um, it's more the thought of, I don't know if I can do these steps for another hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And your mind takes you away. And then that's where you quit. Or, oh my gosh, I don't think I trained for this properly. And you go backwards and start replaying that. And then you've counted yourself out before you even know. So I think that single modality kind of one track provides a really good ground for these things to kind of bubble up, because you have to face the mind. The mind is not occupied by something else at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, then that's like a very, it's like, I think a great way of putting it. And what, in my experience, and I've done quite a bit of long distance, multi-day, multi-month long, like year-long endurance things, and for sure in the Army and Special Forces, I've never seen somebody quit in the present moment.
Mm,
In I should say, I've never seen somebody quit in the present. They've quit in this moment in time. Yeah, that's different though than being in the
sure.
present. Where they've quit in their mind is that where they are is not where they expect or want themselves to be, and they're not going to be able to get there. So I
Like, give
might
an
as well quit.
example. So give an example from like the military, let's just say.
We are doing a long range movement and you're completely exhausted
Hmm.
and you have a long way to go. And the person does this math equation. I'm not going to be able to get to the end. Knowing that, so right there, they're putting themselves in the future of
Hmm.
of where they think they should be or where they want to be, but they're not. I'm not going to be able to cross the finish line or get to the checkpoint or arrive. Okay.
Yeah.
So where I am now
Hmm.
is as far as I'll get, and I'm going to come up short. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Right. They've already decided.
I'm done. They check
Yeah,
out.
that's it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's it. They quit. Maybe they, and so maybe that maybe they don't do it in that exact moment, but when you put this over the course of a week, a month, year, I've
Yeah,
seen people quit the Q course, the Special Forces qualification course, quit it, not under any sort of duress,
right.
not in any sort of yelling and screaming. That's not the way, like that's not how this stuff goes. A 2 year long gauntlet like experience. They've, in a non super stressful immediate moment, decided I'm done,
Mm,
and they've quit because where they
yeah.
project themselves to be or need to be or know they need to be versus where they sort of are, but they're quitting based upon a future place or time or location that they are not. They're
Hmm.
not at, because it's like, dude, it's Monday morning. You're fine. You're here. Like, what do you
Right,
No,
right.
because in 6 months, it's like, but we're
Yeah.
not in 6 months. So that's what I mean. Like this idea that people quit, it's different than like, I literally cannot do this. I like blew my knee out and I cannot walk. I need
Sure,
help. Like
sure.
that's not quitting though, right? That's not that. And so when it comes to endurance, the thing with these long-term, long-distance endurance events is that the finish line is a bit of a mirage, right?
Yeah.
Until you can literally see it or maybe hear the crowds or stuff like that, the finish line is far away. And a lot of times people will say, just imagine yourself crossing the finish line. I think that's
Right.
actually awful advice. Awful advice.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the things when I did my Ironman, I had a coach that was not you, who I'll just leave it at this. There was a claim to be mindset. There was mindset coaching, which I personally, and it's probably not fair because I hold that standard to a pretty high, it's a high standard for what mindset coaching means to us. Um, but the night before my Ironman, I like completely panicked and talk about like projecting. I was certainly not right there in that moment, safe in my bed in the hotel. I was already in the race and I don't even know what I was projecting, but it was panic and fear. And I called you, and your advice was very much about like being in that each moment pedal stroke, and like if you are thinking about the finish line, no, you got to like come back to the pedal stroke, to the footstep, to the swim stroke, like because you're not there yet. Like 14 hours of an event, if you're already thinking about the finish line. And I will say also, it's almost like robbing you of an experience. Like,
Hmm.
and that's something like not to get on a tangent, but I hear it a lot in fitness in all sorts of communities, like just get it over with. Let's just get this over with. I used to swim with a group 2 days a week. And the one woman, every time we get in the pool, that was like something she said, let's just get this over with. And it's like, but sometimes sure, we all have that, like, I just want to like be on the other side of this. But you're kind of skipping through the experience and the learning and the process, because for me the value in some of those hardest events I've done, Ironman, that 50K, even recently the Ruck Race League, the 12 miler, was the fact that somewhere in that time I was like doubting myself and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I was able to come into the present and kind of settle myself and go through kind of this process of just surrendering. And then when I finished, there was like pride in knowing that I went through that and I had
Yeah.
that sticky point, but I was able to not overcome it in a like, shut up, don't think about that, like shut that out, but overcome it
Hmm.
in a way of like, okay, like that's there. And I also can just be in this moment. And, you know, this morning I actually took my mom for a medical procedure, and it was an MRI, and she was very worried about being in the tube of the MRI. So anybody that's had an MRI, it's kind of claustrophobic. And she was worried about that. She was worried about what the results would be. She was worried what if she didn't feel good after. And, when we talk about like how this applies to real life, that is a very real situation. It's like, okay, but what can we do right now? In the moment,
Mhm.
what can you do? You can connect to breathing, connect to this moment. And I think that's where um, we say that there's this real impact with fitness in our lives. It even in the felt experience, like that's a very somatic, like in your body experience. If you've been there before, oh yeah, I've been there where I'm already predicting and projecting and panicking. Okay, I've had practice reps. I remember doing 1,000 step ups and thinking, okay, I can't. And okay, I came back to it and I finished. There's something really encouraging about that versus if you've never done it or you just checked out the whole time and you never had a chat, you know what I mean? So I think part of the process is feeling the overwhelm and then practicing toggling back and forth. And it's not just you feel overwhelmed and then you fix it and then it's perfect. It's very much back and forth if it's a long enough effort.
Yeah, and that's a big part of being able to have tolerance is a huge part of this. And tolerance is allowance without interference. And this is something that I see it in a therapy practice, I see it in a fitness practice, I see it in literally every element of life where there's humans interacting with anything else. And you could say on a social political landscape, there's a problem with tolerance. Tolerance is allowance without interference. So as it
Mm,
relates to overwhelm, the overwhelm, what people do when they're overwhelmed, there's usually an action to reduce the overwhelm,
mm,
right? To finish it or to end it or to whatever. This is so overwhelming, I'm going to quit, right? The interference is the quitting. And then you're like, oh man, a gritty person does not experience overwhelm.
right, right. It's
They,
not easier for them. They don't have
it's
some
not easier
genetic,
for them.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If it was easy, then it wouldn't be gritty.
Hmm.
The gritty person, and this is where these characteristics of perseverance, curiosity, and now finally presence, which is almost like perseverance plus curiosity equals presence, maybe, but they're all sort of in the same kind of, they're similar, right? And they work together, right? They're not like trifurcated things. They work together.
Right, right.
And to allow myself, I am allowed to be overwhelmed.
Hmm.
I don't have to interfere with it.
Yeah.
I can be overwhelmed. Wow, I'm on step up 50 of 1,000. I'm on Turkish get up 7 of 100. I'm on bike calorie 15 of 999.
Mm.
I'm in month day one of a deployment. I just started taking classes. Here's a recent one for me. I recently got my LCSW, and that was a 5-year process.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
remember signing up for grad school being like, oh my God, that is like an eternity away.
yeah, I mean, I'm in it right now. So if I'm in that, but yeah, I think there's everything. I mean, pregnancy, day one back of like having had a child
Yeah.
and talk about going backwards in time. So many people in postpartum, like my body, how it used to be, and it's it can be overwhelming and like feeling like, but I think that is for us, I think one of the things we bring to, and I know we have our opinions and we can get kind of on a soapbox about mindset and fitness because it gets thrown around a lot. But,
Hmm.
yes, you are a mental health counselor. You deal with people's mental health. I'm in school for that. We've done a lot of work with people. And, I think that when we were talking about, yeah, just the tolerance and the ability to work through these things in life, like they're very real things that sometimes when we hear people sort of poo-pooing them or oh like that stuff like I just want to do my fitness, I don't know, it is kind of disappointing because I think there's just so much to there's so much power in, like you said, just acknowledging I'm overwhelmed, whatever that emotion is. Or when we go back to September, failure and tolerance, like these are not just random things we came up with. They all do work together. You know, there's the ability to say, yeah, I'm kind of bummed. Like, yeah, I failed. Like acknowledging some of these things that are not ideal, right? To think that we all go through life just like doing everything great, succeeding at everything, having wonderful days, never feeling overwhelmed. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, I think they are like such important things to tackle. Maybe for some people, fitness isn't the way to do it. But I think what we've always believed is if you're already doing fitness, you kind of have this like key and this tool at your disposal to kind of practice these like human elements that we all bump up against in life. And like, why not benefit your physiology and your psychology versus just being like, no, I'm just gonna take 50% of the benefit. But yeah, just the more we talk about it, it's just so amazing how like there's just so many things to be learned and experienced. Obviously, we're very big proponents of therapy, but I think talking only gets you so far. Um,
And that's the
I'm
thing, a
not.
common misconception, right? Is like being a therapist or working in mental health. We're not talking about. Well, I'm not. We're not talking about being a logistician, where or
Hmm.
like it's not just philosophical pondering. No, someone comes to from a therapeutic perspective. Somebody doesn't come or present to treatment because a flaw in the conceptual underpinnings of their thought process.
Hmm. Right, right.
That's for an academic to say, hey, there's this theory. No, no, no. Somebody comes here because they're doing something in their life that's creating more pain. And they finally
Right.
reached a point, which is there's an action I'm taking, or there's an action I'm not taking that I feel like I should be, that is creating distress, pain, discomfort for myself, others. There's a way of being. There's change,
Hmm.
and that's action oriented. And so there is no separate. People try to, but there is no separation of the body and the mind. It is like saying what side of a quarter is more real, heads or tails, or more
Right, right.
valuable. It's like, what are you talking about? It's a quarter.
Yeah.
So whether or not people want to participate in these kinds of concepts, yeah, totally. Like if it doesn't ring for you, and like then right
Yeah.
on. For those who are curious, for those who do maybe recognize where, wow, I have this opportunity, I have this disposal, or I have this practice at my disposal to benefit not just how I conduct my fitness practice, but also hopefully how I step into other various challenges in my life and maybe teach others or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's why when we built the Grit series, we really built it with the intention of it being something that is a gift that keeps giving.
Hmm.
You do strength, you do a 12-week strength cycle, you do a 16-week endurance cycle, you do something like that. And if you don't maintain it, it will go away.
Right.
We built the Grit series such that its concepts and its skills and its traits that allow you, hopefully, or empower you, or just invite you to continue to apply it without having to redo the thing. Because
Right.
somebody can do 100 Turkish get-ups and completely miss the point. And there's going to be people who do the 999 calories on a bike and completely miss the point. And that's okay.
Hmm.
And not everybody
Sure.
does it right. And there's going to be people who are like, oh, how dare you say you don't do it right? Well, that's just what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
This is
The
for this
workout.
concept
Yeah. And the
because we don't
workout is we,
care how long it takes you.
right.
And that's, I think, a big thing. It's just on that last one with the 999. This is not the first time we've ever programmed 1,000
Hmm.
calories on the assault bike or the echo bike. And one of the times I programmed it for a group of people going through an experience around the world, the instruction was to do it kind of as slow as possible. and somebody
Well, it was
hopped
a
on
theme
and
of
they, it
patience.
was a theme of patience. And it was
Hmm.
like, don't just do this. Don't just get this shit over with.
Right,
And sure enough, there was people who were like, I PR'd it. It's like, you missed the point.
right.
You
Yeah,
missed the
yeah.
point.
And I think that's to the, I was listening to Stephen Pressfield, who's written a couple of books. You're a big fan of his on a
Mm,
podcast. And one of the things he was talking about is like, and he was talking about it relative to like maybe hobbies or things you want to do, pursuits. The thing that maybe you have is the most resistance against is what you need the most. So this was, if you take like you're a big fan of writing and you might like really have so much value in that, but you might also see like a lot of resistance against that. And so I think that's just something just to kind of wrap up this theme and like this season with, um, is if you are having resistance to some of these workouts, maybe the thought is like, this is stupid. What's the point of that? Whatever it is, I don't have time for it. There could be a number of things that kind of pop up, and we're not judging them. We're just saying, we encourage you for the whole season to just kind of sit with like what is the resistance there, and maybe there's a reason that's there, and that's even more reason to engage in these. um Again, some of the workouts, 999 is funny because it's not 1,000, because turns out the bike doesn't click to 1,000. Plus 999 is kind of a cooler number. But yeah, there's some, and they're going to require you to block out, maybe if you want to do them, some time in your life, which is a whole other topic. But Chad is in there, really important workout for so many reasons. The 999, there's a theme throughout the month of like 100. 100, is it 1,000? No, it's 100. It's able to be done in a weekly workout fashion. They're done on Wednesdays. But like these bigger numbers of things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. So I think the workouts are actually really kind of cool and interesting. And you know, they might not be what you normally do on a Wednesday, but I think that's also fun, to just have expansiveness in your fitness as well. So, yeah, we really do hope that this month for folks, we want to hear about not just like praise for like, oh, how it worked. If you're struggling, if you're bumping up against that resistance, like, there is some value in sharing that in the community, um and I hope people do.
same. I mean, you don't get better by zero failure or zero
Yeah.
struggle. And I think
Yeah.
about this. We've told the kids this with like grades, even. It's like, yeah, we want you to get good grades, obviously, right? That's gonna set you up for success, or it's gonna give you opportunities. It's gonna maybe put another key on your little key ring. But if you were to go through school and guess every answer and get it right, that would be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And you didn't learn anything, rather than being like, no, 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 I thought the square root of 16 was 8. And it's like, no, this is what you were thinking to get you to that, but this is actually what the right thing is. And because you were wrong, you learn what right is, or you learn how to do it. You learn. That's the point. It's about learning. It's
Mm,
not like I proved that it's B or A. It's like, no, 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 no. Are we learning? Are we growing? Are we evolving? And that's where, we hope that this grit series has been more like a classroom than a competition floor, because
yeah.
we're certainly not the judges.
Yeah.
And it's for your own growth, your own development. This season, hope maybe into next year. From what we've seen, again, with the very, very diverse and large number of clients we've worked with over multiple decades and literally around the globe in every single country or continent, that the principles and the concepts apply to more than the delivery of the principle or the concept.
Mm, yeah.
So, take it, run with
Yeah.
it, and we'd love to hear how it goes, however it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we will be participating with everyone on a bunch of these, and some of them we've done before. And might be doing again, because there's always stuff to learn. So we look forward to another awesome month with you guys. See you
Cool.
soon.
See ya. Bye.